Hello everyone and welcome to the first entry of our brand new podcast, Unlimited Pancakes, where we'll be discussing everything that's going down in the NBA. Speculation, trades, what we think is going to be happening, who's going to be the champion, everything and anything NBA we will be discussing. And fantasy basketball, because I am the best. I am your host, Fernando Ramirez, don't you shake your head at me like that, a.k.a. Master Chef. With me today on the panel is Derek Key, a.k.a. Dr. D-Rec.
Need medical attention?
Terrible. With me also is Elliot Nwosu, a.k.a. Epic Pleasure.
My life for hire.
Terrible. And finally, Jonathan Leong, a.k.a. Balls to the Wall.
That's the stuff.
Terrible. Okay. Why don't you do things when I tell you to?
I told you I do shit when I want to.
You can't just do shit.
You don't own me, Master Chef. That's a terrible name, by the way.
I thought you said you wanted to be Master Chief.
No, I wanted to be Master Chef because I make the pancakes.
What? Why do you get to make the bacon pancakes?
The first thing that we're going to discuss is going to be the recent trade that the Grizzlies did with Rudy Gay. Now, to break down the trade, this is what happened. Memphis acquired Ed Davis and Jose Calderon from the Raptors, then shipped Calderon to Detroit for Austin Daye and Tayshaun Prince. Toronto gained Rudy Gay, the centerpiece of the whole trade. Now, guys, when this trade went down, what were your reactions first when you heard that this trade happened? I'm going to start with Jonathan.
I was pretty surprised, but honestly, Memphis did a good trade. They followed the OKC model, which is which of these players and our core players can they replace? And it was simple that Rudy Gay was a player that can replace in this trade. And honestly, people are in love with that idea of what Rudy Gay can become. But the thing is, we need to see how Rudy Gay how it is, and he's been just a gigantic disappointment right now in the season. He's been scoring his field goal percentage 40%. He's the leading scorer though, and he need to replace his production. I think this was a good trade because they got Tayshaun Prince. It's because he can replicate Rudy Gay's production, but he doesn't get not that much far of a downgrade though.
Okay, Elliot Nwosu, what do you think?
Well, for Toronto acquiring Rudy Gay, I thought it was pretty good. But
I'm gonna just say this right now. I'm gonna let you keep going. I actually disagree with me. I actually don't like Toronto having Rudy Gay.
Really?
I really do not like Toronto having Rudy Gay, but I'll get to that in a minute, so keep going.
Well, I think Toronto came out on top, and I think, wasn't it the first game he had, Rudy Gay destroyed with...
He had 26 points.
26 points in the first...
A really big number of
boards. So he showed he can produce. I mean, yeah, it might be a disappointing season, but it's Rudy Gay. I mean, players have the ups and downs, but I still think it's good for them. And then, where did Tayshaun Prince go?
Tayshaun Prince went to Memphis.
Prince, I think Tayshaun Prince has been in the league for quite a while. He's getting older. His productivity is going down. I mean, he can still...
You have to remember, though, Tayshaun Prince was playing on the lottery team. He was not motivated to produce or anything. You could tell that they were going with the future, and he was just a piece that were just waiting to get rid of. So can you really expect him to produce on a lottery team, though? That's the thing.
True.
Derek, what do you think?
I feel like Prince to Memphis was a pretty good trade because he doesn't need the ball as much as Rudy Gay, but his production is still very consistent, even in Detroit when he's old and surrounded by young players. People really neglect the Calderon part to Detroit.
Yeah, I'll agree with that because Detroit has been missing a pass-first point guard for a very, very long time, and I feel that he is going to be part of the development of Brandon Knight. Brandon Knight, basically what I see is this. Detroit is a raw product. When they finally traded Tayshaun Prince, they finally got rid of the final piece of that 2004 team that won the NBA Finals. And you have pieces like Andre Drummond, which I am a huge fan of. I really think Andre Drummond, at the age that he is, he's 19 years old, and the kind of numbers that he's starting to prove, he is still a raw product. But I think you give him 2 or 3 years, this guy could be a huge piece in Detroit coming back and being a legitimate contender, along with Greg Monroe, Brandon Knight. I really think so. I don't
think so.
Well, maybe not contender, but that Eastern Conference is always weak, and I feel that the Pistons in 2 to 3 years they'll at least be in the playoff hunt. Heck, they're still in the playoff hunt right now. If you think about it, they're only the 10th seed, and the East is very weak.
Yeah,
the East has always been weak. That's always been the story. And there usually is one team that just kind of creeps into that 8th seed. But what I was getting back to the Toronto thing, you have in Toronto right now 4 players that are ball handlers. They need the ball to create their own offense. You have Andre Bargnani, you have Rudy Gay, you have
Lowry,
and you have DeRozan. All 4 of those guys. I feel like there's going to be issues because, for starters, DeRozan and Gay almost play the same kind of ball. They're going to so you're going to be basically saying who's going to have the ball and who's going to be doing plays. You're basically going to have isolation basketball going on in Toronto.
Let's be honest here. Bargnani is not in the long-term plans with the Toronto Raptors. Apparently there's a trade war going on where they're going to trade Carlos Boozer to Toronto for Andre Bargnani.
Well, that's if they go through with this. And
if that happens, I can see Toronto becoming very strong, huge contenders.
I don't know.
With Rudy Gay and Carlos Boozer is consistent in the fact that his field goal percentage is always high. He grabs rebounds on whatever the crap his name is. Yeah. So and then he's tough. Like whenever you're going against, like if you're on the post against, like who would you rather go on the post against, Bargnani, or would you go?
I don't know. I look at that trade and I don't really see anybody improving from that trade. They would just be swapping pieces.
I think Toronto would become very strong.
The only thing that possibly could happen is that Bargnani would be a pick and roll player that Derrick Rose could use. That's about it. But honestly, I don't really see. Carlos Boozer is playing at a pretty good level. Why trade him? Keep him. Work with him. Bring back Derrick Rose. Try to see if you can make a run for it this year. And then
it all depends on Joakim Noah and if he still stays healthy.
Oh, Joakim Noah is going to be just fine. I'm not really concerned about that.
Carlos Boozer has always been he's going to be one of those casualties on the amnesty clause. Chicago has been always trying to get rid of his contract. I think this is the best point where they can add some offense but get rid of a long-term contract they have been committed to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just going to mention this real quick. Final thing with this Grizzlies trade. I look at the Grizzlies right now. In the beginning of the year, I thought that they were going to compete for the NBA Finals. I thought they were going to go out there and they were going to really be on par with OKC, with the Clippers. And they started off the season pretty good. In October and November, they had a 12-2 record. They were, in that top seed. They were holding the top seed in the West, and they were showing like they were really balling. They were just exploding right off the gate. But since then, they've declined. Their record is sort of shadowing their recent woes. On paper, it should work. You have Prince, you have Gasol, you have Randolph. You no longer have Gay causing space issues, spacing on the floor when it comes to the offense. You got a point guard like Mike Conley. You have a decent bench. It seems like this team should be working. Hopefully, obviously it's early. It's early on in the trade, but I'm hoping to see that, Prince clicks with this team. They get the offense rolling. Everybody steps up their game. And I honestly see them being a top 4 seed.
I have to disagree there. Yeah, they're a good team. But I don't see them going past, maybe surprising they go past the first round. But, do you really think in contention they're up to par with Thunder, up to par with the Lakers, up to par with the Spurs?
At one point I did, yes. But at this moment, okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you right now.
Even at their strongest point, they were never up to par with them.
At their strongest point, yes, I did.
You think they can beat the Spurs in a 7-game series?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
No.
You think the Grizzlies?
Honestly,
no.
You guys were the one thing about Rudy Gay when they had that championship team was that he's overrated. People were hoping that he'd become an all-star, but the truth is he's not an all-star. He will never be an all-star.
Wait, who are you talking about, Gay?
Yeah,
Rudy Gay, because there will never be. And then the thing about Memphis is they're just too weak. They cleared out their whole roster. Their whole bench is gone.
They did brush off more players in that other trade with the Cavaliers when they gave away. The main piece that I noticed, they gave away Ellington, and that guy was doing good from the
Ellington,
3.
they gave away Murray Space. They gave away the whole bench.
Yeah.
Just because so they can have some cap space.
I mean, I'll say this: if it was where the Grizzlies were in the East, yes, they can make an actual contention because of how god awful the East is compared to the West. But they're in the West where everybody is strong. So the West is just too strong to say the Grizzlies are that good.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up and let's say this. Who do you think long term is the winner of this trade, John?
I gotta go with Detroit.
You think Detroit?
Yes.
How come?
The thing is that they got guys now, with the addition of Calderon, they got guys playing their natural position. I mean, it was obvious, Brandon Knight, Rodney Stuckey, they weren't point guards. They weren't guys going to create. Now you bring that whole pressure off to where they can be shooting guards. They can be guys who just look for their own shot. And right now, Andre Drummond is going to be a superstar. I'm going to say it now. He's going to be a star. The production he has per 36 minutes is ridiculous.
Yes, stay healthy, though.
Okay. Who do you think won the trade long term?
I think Toronto, especially if this trade with getting rid of Bargnani and bringing in Boozer. I think Toronto would be going forward because you're going to have Rudy Gay, you're going to have Kyle Lowry, you're going to have Boozer, and then who else is there?
Boozer thing is not happening.
I'm saying if it happens.
Okay.
If it happens. Even with Bargnani, Boozer's a much better player, but with Bargnani, they can still work. So I say Toronto is the winner of this trade.
Toronto. Okay. What do you think?
I agree with John. Detroit had the results are going to show up in a couple years, and we'll see them in the contention for the playoffs more often than none.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Detroit long term because, well, actually, the thing I'm afraid of is that they might do something horrible like they did the last time they had that much cap space when they picked up Ben Gordon and Villanueva. And that was a complete disaster, and we all know what happened. It didn't work out, and they had to rebuild from there.
So no one's picking Memphis at all?
No, because I really don't think
so. You guys don't think Tayshaun Prince is that good?
Memphis has a very short window, and I think they're realizing that they're not going to compete. So they've already been starting to get rid of pieces, and they're gonna throw their hat in the ring, but they're not really hoping. I honestly don't think that.
But I mean, why would you do that though? Their season was already going pretty well.
Luxury cap.
Yes.
They didn't want to like they wanted to get something with Rudy Gay because if not they're going to lose in free agency or they weren't going to be able to pay him enough.
They were paying him superstar money, but he wasn't playing at superstar level. That Memphis realized that's a thing.
Yeah. And with that note, we're going to move on to the main part of our topic today. We're going to talk about the mid-season. Guys, the All-Star break is coming next week. It's going to be here in Houston. Hooray, 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 hooray.
Yeah.
But what we're going to discuss is the biggest disappointments, surprises that we feel overall, just grading so far what's been going down in the NBA. So, John, I'm going to start with you. What has been the biggest disappointment so far?
I gotta go with the LA Lakers. I mean, I really expect them to be a superstar team, challenge the Chicago Bulls records, and this the way they played together has just been terrible. Steve Nash has been lost. Dwight Howard has not been fitting in. Pau Gasol has been a baby this whole season. They just haven't connected like I thought they would. I mean, their superstar player is not playing at superstar level, and that's been disappointing for me. I mean, and honestly, I don't see them making past the playoffs at all.
Yeah, no, there is just the elephant in the room. They are the biggest disappointment because I remember we were watching the free agency because, you know, all of us here, we're Rockets fans. And we were trying to see what move, okay, Elliot hates everything, but we were trying to see what moves Daryl Morey was going to make. And obviously the big piece was Dwight Howard. And when we saw that the Lakers just basically devoured the best players from the free agency when they got Nash. And when you look, I mean, I'm just going to say it out loud. It still sounds like a lethal lineup. Paul Gasol, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, Ron Artest. I'm going to call him Ron Artest. You have those 5 players immediately. Everybody was give it to them. They are going to represent the West. Screw that. Immediately by default, they are going to be the contender for the West. It was everywhere. I remember hearing it was annoying, but everybody was saying this team is going to explode off. Who knows what amazing things they're going to do because when you have a starting 5 like that, you can have your bench depleted because they basically don't have a bench except for a very aging Antoine Jameson and a Steve Blake who's injured. Well, actually, no, he came back recently.
Earl Clark is. I don't know.
Earl Clark. Well, he's stepping up a little bit. He's stepping up, but
well, one of the best things to happen, Luke Walton's not there anymore.
He hasn't been there forever.
Who's Luke Walton again?
My father played in the NBA.
So, all right, but yeah, Lakers definitely a huge disappointment. Derek, what's a disappointment to you?
I feel like the Heat's production isn't so good, but they're just coasting along the regular season just to go into the playoff mode, and they're just saving their strength.
A lot of people are saying the Heat are going to come back. I actually don't think they might go back to the finals. I really don't think. I'm not going to give it to them just yet.
Who's going to stop them in the East?
Indiana Pacers. But we'll get to that later. But you're right. They have that, they won. And they're just coasting right now. But they actually haven't been even doing that good against, the teams that they're supposed to be beating. Currently, right now, the 2 teams that pose the biggest threat to the Heat in the East, the Knicks and the Pacers, 0-2 against both of them. So they're 0-4 against their 2 biggest threats right now in the season.
I gotta disagree with you. Regular season records, those regular season matchups, they don't mean anything in the playoffs. The playoffs is a completely different style. And the one thing that the Miami have that no other team has, LeBron James. That guy will just carry everything on his shoulders. I do believe that when the time comes, LeBron James will step up and win them another championship.
Well, but with the aging Dwayne Wade, how long do you think he can last?
I think Dwayne will step up when he needs to.
Dude, that's another thing I'm worried about. Well, obviously, this is just way looking into the future. He gets injured in the playoffs, then what?
I think Eric Spoelstra.
What bench do they have?
All right, Ellie, what's your biggest disappointment?
I have to go with John, the Lakers. I mean, disappointing in the fact, yes, right now they're not in the playoff hunt. They have a bad record, but then you have to think about the amount of injuries that's happened to him. Like Pau Gasol has been dinged up. Dwight Howard is dinged up. Steve Nash was dinged up for the longest time. And then you have Ron Artest. Yes, like I say, Ron Artest, I don't consider him much. He's a good defensive mind, but then he thinks he's so good, so he starts to create his own offense. No, you stop. You don't create your own offense. That's why you have Kobe. And Kobe is always injured. Like even if it says it's completely fine, there's always something wrong with Kobe, but he just plays through it. So, but come playoff time is where Kobe shines.
We'll see. Okay, biggest surprises. Elliot, you want to start? What's been a big surprise to you so far this season?
Well, the biggest surprise so far for me has to be. Well, there's two factors. Damian Lillard, the amazing point guard from Portland, and the Clippers. Like the Clippers, it's the Clippers, man. Like I think it was with the acquisition of Chris Paul last year. They were, for the first time in how many years, they were fighting for who's the best team in LA.
They were relevant for the first time ever.
Yeah. So, like, whenever you say who's the best team in LA, it was obvious. Whichever team Kobe was on. If Kobe ever got traded to Clippers, then it would be the Clippers.
I think the thing that surprised me the most is how deep
the Clippers are.
The Clippers are. I mean, it is ridiculous how deep they are. They have Eric Bledsoe. They have Jamal Crawford playing the way they
Jamal Crawford is a scoring beast. Like, he wouldn't give you the assist numbers like Chris Paul. Like, it's amazing how those two players like counteract each other. Like, you have Chris Paul is one of the best, if not the best, point guard. He has a pretty good shot, and he can drive the ball in, and he sets up teammates. I think the thing is that
here's the thing. When I look at the Clippers and I look at their bench, it's incredible how many players could actually be starters in different teams.
True.
And the fact that they're all playing at a very, very high level, they all see that they have an opportunity to really, be the number one team in LA. And not only are they having this goal, they're actually succeeding in it. They're actually competing in that top area, and they're becoming one of the best teams to actually, if we're going forward into the playoffs, they could really go to the finals. And that would be weird just to say the Clippers are in the NBA finals. I don't think anybody in their lifetime was going to be able to say that, honestly.
They're a very dangerous team. I have to admit, their bench, there have been times in the season where the Clippers, the starters haven't been getting done, and the bench just comes in. It's a completely different ballgame. I mean, Bledsoe, Jamal Crawford, even surprisingly Lamar Odom. I didn't know.
Yeah, Lamar Odom he's starting to sort of get some step in him,
But yeah, I've been really impressed with the Lakers. With the Clippers' depth. I'm surprised.
They're gonna make some noise.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the finals.
I guess there's something about the LA atmosphere that just speaks to Lamar.
Those are back there. What do you think, Derek? What's been a big surprise to you?
I'm a big fanboy of Kyrie Irving. So for Damian Lillard to be compared to Kyrie Irving in his rookie year, like when Irving was in his rookie year, that speaks to me. Like this kid can play ball, and that's why
he's keeping him in that contention. him along with LaMarcus Aldridge.
All their starters.
Yeah. Their starters, they have really good starters. The thing that hinders them is their bench. But their starters, that's a pretty legitimate starting lineup that they have with Batum. Well, they got Batum, J.J. Hickson. They got Marcus Aldridge, Wesley Matthews. That's a pretty.
The thing is, how long the starters going to last? All of them are playing 36, 30 minutes per game. You need to have they need to have breathers.
They need to have relief.
If they do make the playoffs, they're going to be worn out by the time they get there.
I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs.
They're fighting the Rockets right now.
For the 8 seed?
For the 8 seed.
Honestly, if it comes down to it, I will give it to Portland over the Rockets.
Jonathan, what has been one of your biggest surprises?
I got to go with Houston. Honestly, I knew when they got the trade with James Harden, I really thought even though they trade for James Harden, they'll still be a bottom seller team, really weak team. But honestly, they've grown every time I see them. They know and what surprised me most is that they already know what their identity is. Their identity is, we're going to run the ball at you at every opportunity. We're going to run at you. Doesn't care. You guys score a basket, we get a block. They're running, and they're shooting 3-pointers like crazy. 23 made 3-pointers.
They made 23 threes against Golden State on Tuesday. It was crazy.
That kind of firepower. How can you not be in playoff contention?
We were a bottom feeder team. Everybody predicted us to be second to last. As we try to develop Jeremy Lamb.
I still thought they would be second to last.
Jeremy Lamb, and supposedly you're still gonna have Kevin Martin and all that stuff, and you're questioning. There was a lot of questions. Was Omer Ashik going to be able to be a starter? You were asking, does Jeremy Lin was going to be able to be a starter? And I will say this, okay, going back to that disappointing thing. Okay, Jeremy Lin has been a big disappointment to me, but I will give it to him. He has been legitimate.
He's a good fit for the team.
He's a fit. He fits there. He hasn't been hindering them so much. It's just the fact that I thought he would be producing more. So he's not causing so many issues that the Rockets are going to be losing because of him. But at the same time, I just thought he was going to be doing more.
You want to know why?
I just think it's a chemistry thing. They just need to get the chemistry together, learn how to play each other's. And I think over time they could be a very dangerous team come playoff time. They do make it.
You did mention Amir Asik, man. That guy.
Amir Ashik. He doesn't say Ashik.
Asik can destroy. That's how he does.
That guy's playing so well.
Dude is a rebounding machine, dude. I think he's in the top 10 rebounding players.
In the NBA right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude is crazy. My biggest surprise is... I'm gonna go with this first. New York Knicks. New York Knicks have been a big surprise to me because I remember one of the big things obviously was Jeremy Lin leaving, and everyone made a huge commodity about that. Everybody was discussing, can Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony, because last year when Carmelo and Tyson Chandler and Stoudemire were on the court at the same time, it was just god-awful. Their offensive efficiency just went plummeting. They just could not work together because you basically have two players that play the same position. You were wondering if Melo was ever going to, become anything more than just a shooter, a scorer. Was he going to be able to, basically become an all-around player? How are you going to get... You picked up Fat Boy Felton, the way that Derek likes to call him. You got Raymond Felton, a.k.a. Fat Boy Felton, and you got Old Kid. So you basically have an old point guard and a fat point guard. How are you going to get any kind of production from them? How are you going to distribute? There was just so many questions with this team. And so far, they are, one of the best teams. Carmelo Anthony has been playing amazing. Felton has been playing good. Kid has been shooting threes like crazy. He's all of a sudden become a three-point specialist. The guy just rained threes. Tyson Chandler is dominant in the paint. And with Stoudemire coming back, that raised new questions. Can they work with Stoudemire coming off the bench? Stoudemire is producing off the bench. So basically this team is really, starting to come together. And obviously the only question is, come playoff time, will they win a playoff series? But so far, just talking the season, they're doing good.
I mean, come playoff time, once again, they're in the
playoff
East.
time is a different beast, and we're going to have to cover that.
No, I'm saying they're in the East. Like, let's say, whoever they're playing.
No, but the expectations with the Knicks is getting out of the East. It doesn't matter, but, they're expected to win a first-round series. And then, let's say, for example, they face a team like the Pacers or the Heat. Can they beat those teams?
The Pacers, they have the Heat are, in my opinion, they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. So it's not a question of who can beat the Heat, is who can go up to them in the Eastern Final and beat them there. Because you're not going to beat them in the first round. You're definitely not going to be in the second round. So right now we already know a lock for one team in the Eastern Conference Final. Now it's the battle for who's the next team going to face them.
And I think this comes to my second big surprise, and I think it's going to be one of those teams that are going to be up there when it comes down to it, is going to be the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers have lockdown defense. This team, it is very hard to score against this team. They have, I think, it's either the number 1 or the number 2 defense in the entire league. They started off bad on offense, but now they're starting to get it clicking. I think they're going to be really dangerous. This is a team that is just doing really, really good, and
team that's built themselves up.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think the Indiana Pacers are the only team that can really challenge the Heat, because one thing the Heat struggle with is size and rebounding, and that's the strength of the Pacers. I mean, Roy Hibbert, David West, they'll match the Heat's physicality, and I like that. And plus, Danny Granger, I mean, that guy, I believe they can go all the way to the finals. If so, they're the only ones my second choice.
They're like other contenders in the East.
What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, I feel like Indiana Pacers has a good matchup against Miami. One game I remember particularly, David West had like 20 or almost, I think 30 points against the Heat. They just couldn't stop him. They just couldn't stop David West. So if Heat can't stop David West or Paul George or even Granger when he comes back healthy, they need to watch out.
It's going to be interesting to see. Because you know for sure the Knicks, the Pacers, the Heat, they're going to go. And these are the Titans. Obviously, the fourth one is the Bulls. When they get Rose and back, if Rose comes back playing, as strong as he did. And I feel that he will. I feel that Rose is going to come back. He's probably going to start off a little slow, maybe, but the dude has way too much talent, and he knows how to play the kind of game that he wants to play. I think he's going to come back, he's going to produce, and that is going to be the threat.
See, that's the thing, though. When he comes back, it's going to be in the second half. And we don't know exactly when.
He's coming back. He's going to come back.
After February 17th.
Yeah, I'm saying
after All-Star break. But Chicago has done a good job of keeping themselves. They're the 4th seed right now. They've done, and they're
Chicago's solid. Yeah, I admit that.
And I think Rose is going to put them up in that other level where you're going to see.
If Rose has come back as strong as he was, then obviously it's not going to be a battle between the Heat.
Okay, you know what? I'll say this: if Rose comes back as strong as he was, it's going to be Bulls Heat.
Bulls Heat? You don't think the Pacers can stop?
If I'm sorry. I want to say Bulls Heat in the conference finals, but obviously it also depends on seeding. Mm-hmm. So there might be a chance where they might have to meet each other in the second round just because maybe he doesn't play to a point where they can move up to the second seed.
But you're saying in a matchup
in a matchup where I look at these 4 guys, honestly could see Chicago and Heat going to the finals.
Who would you take in that matchup, Chicago or the Heat? Who would you take?
I gotta go with the Heat. I mean, just LeBron James is the best player. I can't doubt him.
Oh, you would love LeBron James, no?
LeBron James is the second best player. Who would you go with?
What, to you?
The conference or against that matchup?
Just a matchup of the Bulls with the Derrick Rose ready from last year and the Miami Heat right now.
I'm going with the Heat.
The Heat?
Yeah.
Man, with the way the Heat are playing right now, and with the way the Bulls, if Derrick Rose comes back and the way the Bulls are playing currently, because right now the Bulls in the 14 without your best player, that's just phenomenal. And especially if he comes back with as much. Like, Derrick Rose gives you the intensity. He gives you that scoring point guard, that aggressive.
He gives you the
push.
superstar.
Yeah,
and that's a huge thing, because you basically have a solid team. You got Boozer, you got Noah, you got all these. Nate Robinson. That guy's flying. That guy's flying
out of nowhere. Like,
well, he's always been good. I mean, remember in 2010, he was one of the big reasons why that 2010 Celtics team went all the way to the finals.
He's like that. He's like that guy who's always moving teams and just slowly helping the team get better. But then they never have a need for him, so just toss him out. Nate Robinson is a solid player. He's just short.
Well, how about the Chicago, though? I mean, they've been getting all these players that have been stepping up from Marco Bellinelli, Jimmy Butler, Nate Robinson. All those guys have stepped up for them. And with the
Chicago is a huge surprise. I remember I was actually talking to your brother, and I was telling him, I bet you Chicago will be in that top 4. I just look at these teams, and I look at Chicago, and I see what they did last year when Rose was injured during that huge period of time. This is a solid team, and they have a coach that doesn't, he's a very disciplined coach. He has them playing at a high level, and the one thing I always notice, even if they're not playing that great, there's always good defense in that team. That team is designed for pure defense.
When Rose went down, didn't they lose that series? They were
yeah, but what I'm talking about is in the season. See, if this is the team that's going to go into the playoffs, then I'm going to give them a little less. But the season is a marathon, and they are built for a marathon season with this team where they can outlast, and maybe they can have a couple of off nights, but they will do enough where they can stay in that top 4, especially in the East. I want to move on to a little segment where it's talking about some of the heartbreaks of the season, where you basically had some really big hopes going into the season, and then it just kind of plummeted because of pure bad luck. And the first one I'm going to discuss is, and I'm going to discuss it just because it affected my friend's fantasy team, Verjao. You're doing all right there, Elliot? Anderson Varejao was having a ridiculously, I'm gonna grease it up a little bit, an amazing season. Good Lord, his season was just so fantastic. The fantasy numbers that he was putting up, he was just getting the boards, he was getting the points.
He had numbers bigger than his hair.
Oh yes, it was just glorious.
15 rebounds a game, and oh god, he was such a steal in the 5th round in fantasy. Like nobody. I've always been a fan of Varejao when he was with LeBron. I felt so sad for him when LeBron left him, and then now you have Irving, a good up and coming point guard. Like he's a star.
He's getting close. He's up and coming. He's almost there.
He's a scorer. He has a scoring mentality.
Hey, Mama,
like he's a scorer. Like he's almost like Kobe in a sense. What? Like he's averaging less than 5 assists a game for a point guard. No, your point guard, your whole point is to pass the ball. Like Rose was
remember, you're in pain because of Varejao.
Oh, look how talk. Well, yeah, I mean it's really sad. Like who's to say? I mean, Varejao and what's it called? Kyrie Irving. Did they even play together this season?
No, they did play together. No, that was the point. Look, you knew that the Cavaliers weren't going to be playing for anything, but
no. I honestly think with. Once again, the East with
because
Varejao healthy because
they had Varejao healthy and they were bottom.
They were still bottom seller.
They were still bottom seller, dude. Well, look, the thing that I feel bad for is that he was having an incredible season. He was just statistically, he was having a career season, and then the way that he got injured, he was proving himself to be one of the big centers in the NBA, and this happened to him. Another heartbreak I want to quickly talk about is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They had huge expectations. They really thought that they were going to be able to compete for the playoffs. And all of a sudden, your 2 best players, which is Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio, one has the injury, comes back, and then all of a sudden Kevin Love just goes back down. And what's worse is that Ricky Rubio has not been doing that good this year. His shooting is just atrocious. The guy is not having a good shooting season this year. His passes are good. The guy, that's why you pick him up, because the guy was one of everybody was just astonished by the kind of passes that he has. But when you can't shoot the ball, everybody's just going to recognize that you're going to pass. So what that happens, you take out an element. You take out the element of Ricky Rubio, which is he's a passer. So that really hinders that Minnesota team, and obviously Love missing, going down. You would hope that, they picked up Karolinko, they picked up Shved, they picked up Pekovic. Pekovic has been doing pretty good. And you're hoping, okay, that's when you know what a good team is. You got a player down. Your team should be strong enough, like the Bulls, that they can at least keep you in the hunt. And statistically speaking, yes, Minnesota is still in the hunt, but dude, they're 10 games under 500. They're behind the Lakers, Dallas, and Portland, which are better teams.
Obviously.
You know, you just look at this team and you're just saying to yourself, man, you know, they're going to miss out. What's going to happen? Ken Levy, he's going to keep getting frustrated, and I don't know. It's just disaster right now in Minnesota.
Honestly, it hurts the players because of Rick Adelman, who runs a system where players, they make plays and make offensive plays based on how they react to each other. They're building chemistry, and then how can you build chemistry with each other if they keep getting injured? I mean, how can you expect them to run Rick Adelman's offense correctly? All these players coming and going.
Yeah.
You can't really do much.
You need stability.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, no. It's completely different with Kevin Love and Derrick Rose, the going down situation. When Derrick Rose went down, his team stepped up because the Chicago Bulls has good players.
No, but that's my point. The Timberwolves thought they had players that could at least, if somebody went down, because they knew at the very beginning Ricky Rubio was already down. So they thought, okay, a player can come back. Our team is strong enough to keep us in the hunt. That team is not strong enough to keep us in the hunt. And I think that is disappointing because you picked up these guys, after they had a good performance in the Olympics and they got third place, the Russian guys. You had Karolinko and Shved. Pekovic has been playing at a pretty good level. You got J.J. Barea. You were hoping that Brandon Roy was going to be something. And that's another thing that happened. Brandon Roy's knee, went just... Yeah, Derek's favorite player, Brandon Roy, and he really wanted to see him come back. And Brandon Roy...
I mean, we all did. Brandon... I like Brandon Roy ever since Portland when he was... Amazing player, just good person. Like when you watched him play, it was like beautiful basketball.
He was on the cusp of stardom, but unfortunately his knees gave out on him, and then
that whole Portland team gave out. It was just terrible, and I feel sorry for that. But that's something else. But the Timberwolves, I thought they were gonna be a playoff team, or at least kind of hover around there.
They have nobody
so far. It looks like they really don't have anybody, or they don't have anybody to really compete. And my last heartbreak, this is for me, is that we have lost a Hornet. We have lost the New Orleans Hornets to the New Orleans Pelicans. Oh God!
The logo actually looks.
The logo
cool.
looks pretty. The logo looks pretty badass. But I just think to myself, for starters, if the announcer starts saying "Oh, he hits the three," they're just gonna be
Pelicans.
I mean, come on, I'm afraid of Pelicans. Oh, we're going against the Pelicans today.
I didn't do a promo for that. It's like the Houston Rockets. They're gonna go face the Pelicans. They're in that fish.
How whenever the fans need to get the stadium going, we Rockets have. Let's go Rockets. How you gonna do for the Pelicans? Let's go Pelicans. They
have breadcrumbs in there.
Well, you said
no, Rockets is 2 syllables. Pelicans is 3 syllables.
If you say it fast enough, it's okay.
You
can max it. You can mask it.
I guess.
No, when I first heard of Pelican, I thought
I'm sick and tired of birds.
I heard of that. I thought of that Pokemon. The Pelican Pokemon. I thought it'd be this happy bird, haha, and it's I don't know. I just thought it was gonna be this ridiculous. But I will admit, the logo looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
I will say this: it's probably just gonna take me some time to accept it. Because, for example, when the Thunder. When I heard that name, I didn't like it, and I didn't like their logo.
Really?
It took me some time.
Yeah, it did. But then seeing but
you see, you had the players to really kind of okay, you know what? I can deal with this Thunder. I'm down with this name, but it took me a while. It honestly took me a while because I love the Sonics, and I was a big fan of the Sonics.
I mean, we'll see how the Pelicans and obviously they have pretty decent players. So,
oh man, it just sounds weird. It's the Pelicans are going to be in the playoffs. So, I don't know.
Even if they were a top seed, I wouldn't feel afraid of them. Just
it's you got
the Pelicans.
Your top 4 seeds. You got the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Pelicans. It's I don't know. That name is just gonna get a lot of. It's gonna be a disaster. So, our final topic that we're gonna discuss today is gonna be what we think is our outlook for the second half. Which teams we think are gonna surge into the playoff picture. Which teams we think we're gonna drop. And one of the first things actually that I want to ask is, right now we know that there are some teams that are hurting. And the teams that come to mind are the 76ers, the Bulls, I guess you could say sort of the Indiana Pacers,
Celtics.
And the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Celtics, yes.
Toronto.
Okay, you know what? We just go for all the Bobcats are hurting. The Bobcats are just.
You just wait and see. Michael Jordan has something special for the Bobcats.
How long have you saying that for 10 years? For 5 years?
They're gonna go on a 23-game winning
back out
streak.
of retirement.
On a 23-game winning streak and take 9th place.
You bet your best fantasy basketball players on that.
The Bobcats are awful.
Give me the Marcus Aldridge.
Bobcats are awful.
No, okay. So let me ask you this question: from the pool of the following players, Derrick Rose, Andrew Bynum, Danny Granger, Kevin Love, who do you think will have the most impact on their teams and the push to the playoffs? I'm gonna start with you, John.
I mean, I have to go with, I know a lot of people want to say Granger or Rose, but I got to go with Bynum. I mean, the 76ers have just been devastated. Thaddeus Young has been out. Evan Turner hasn't been doing very well as of late. And I know that Jason Richardson is out for the year. I mean, they just need another weapon for Drew Holiday just to be dangerous. And honestly, I think the reason I can't say Derrick Rose is because when I think Chicago, I think defense. That's how they've been able to maintain their seeding. And then if Derrick Rose come back, he'll help them offensively, but he doesn't help them with the strengths. He helps them with the weaknesses. I just can't see Derrick Rose he'll bring them to the MVP level, but I don't see them improving them in their seeding.
Okay. What do you think, Derek?
Maybe Granger.
Granger.
Yeah, because Indiana lacks offense.
Well, actually, they've actually been.
I didn't mean to intend for him to start over anybody. But I think you picture him as a six man, like a mid-season six man.
So you see him?
Do you think he'll be willing to do that though?
I mean, if they have a championship contending team like they do right now, I think.
So you think he might go the OJ Mayo route when they put him as the sixth man for Memphis?
Yeah, but that's still my number. Remember the Sacramento Kings when they had that mega team of Vlade Divac, Brad Miller, Peja Stojakovic, Mike Bibby. Then all of a sudden Chris Webber came back, and all of a sudden he just fell down from the standings crazy
because of who Chris Webber was.
Yes, Chris.
Stardom matters.
I'm not sure if his talents mesh well with them. We'll have to see. But Granger could give them a very big boost.
Do you think he would give them the boost to go up, or do you think he will do that thing where, in terms of the seeding, maybe, will his presence bring them down in the seedings?
Yeah.
They'll maintain
They'll
their
either
seeding.
stay the exact same or go better.
Right now they're hovering around the 3-2 spot.
Yeah, he's not going to make them worse.
They'll never touch Paul George or anything, like moving out of his comfort zone. I think he's small forward right now, playing in the Pacers, so they won't move him from that.
Yeah. Okay, so out of that pool of players, who do you think will have the most impact on their team?
Well, to be honest, for Kevin Love, if he comes back, the Timberwolves are crap, so they're out. So
they can't get any worse.
Yeah,
can they?
I mean, if you're at the bottom, the only way to go is up. But even if Kevin Love comes back, they're still going to go down. They're going to find a way to go down. Yeah. And with, let's see, who else is coming back? Bynum is coming back, Granger, and Rose. Out of that, I have to say Bynum. Like for those who can actually help the team, I have to say Bynum, because even if Rose comes back, like Chicago's gonna be in the playoffs. Like so, actually, this all leads to Bynum. Like
Bynum elevates the 76ers in terms of
their ability to score, the defense.
What center is better than Bynum in the East?
I mean, there's Kwame Brown.
That's debatable. Bynum has a lack of interest too. Remember when he was with the Lakers? He
has something
to
prove, though. He has something to prove coming back from injury.
But basically, okay, with the stretch of why the whole he had problems with the coach. Like he literally he was dribbling he walked up to 3-point line and shot a three. Bynum shooting a three. This was I think the third quarter. Like it was a close game, and he just shoots a three. And the coach is like, what the hell are you doing? Like the game is not out of reach. Like what are you doing? He just lacked the motivation. So with him coming back, he is the one who's going to boost. Either he can boost the 76ers into the playoff race, depending on how he plays.
Well, currently they're only 4 games behind Milwaukee, and Milwaukee has been very shaky. They're not doing that great.
It's been very inconsistent. Their lineup has been changing in and out. I mean, I can't even tell you who's been starting the last games because it's just Samuel Dallenberg starting from the. Apparently, he had a really good game.
He had a beast game. Yeah.
Okay, well then it will lead me to this next question: which team do you see falling off the playoff picture? Do you see Memphis, Boston, Milwaukee, Houston, Utah?
Memphis. Yes, Memphis. I don't think Tayshaun Prince gives what Rudy Gay does.
Do you think it would be enough to make him fall off, or just become one of the last, in the bottom 8? I mean, in the bottom.
I gotta disagree with you. I mean, Tayshaun Prince production, he can make similar production than Rudy Gay. He won't make them better, but he won't make them worse. It's kind of like the OKC trade where they kind of were hoping Kevin Martin can somehow replicate James Harden's production. I think that's what Memphis.
See, that's going to be the huge question. You're basically replicating supposed what a player can produce with statistics. You're hoping, for example, with Kevin Martin, that's going to be huge. He is doing phenomenal right now. Let's say there comes a moment where, last year, when I just remember that Spurs series when the game 2, perfect basketball was being played by the Spurs. We were there watching, and we could not believe how perfect they were playing basketball. It was literally perfect basketball going on. And you wondered, could OKC come out? What was going to change? James Harden changed the entire scope. Nothing could stop him. You wonder if they go into a situation like that where they're stumped, where Westbrook starts to get hot-headed and he starts to do really stupid stuff with the ball, and Kevin Durant doesn't really become aggressive and he kind of falls back. Is Kevin Martin going to elevate you to that point?
That's a good point. Those things
and you wonder if that effect will also happen with Memphis. Now, I'm not saying that Rudy Gay is a James Harden or anything like that.
He's better.
But what I'm saying is that you're asking Tajon Prince to do something for Memphis that I wonder how much Memphis will fall. I don't think they're too good to be out of the playoff race. Yeah. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I question Denver is going up. Denver is playing ridiculous. Kenneth Faried is just having a ridiculous year. McGee is not acting that boneheaded. He's actually playing pretty disciplined in the center. Iguodala is, actually being a good fit to them. That team is starting to click, especially now that they've gotten through a heavy part of the early schedule, So I see Denver moving up in that top 4 spot. And so I just start to question, maybe, Memphis could be falling off the picture. But, Derek, who do you think from the teams, seeing right now, who do you think will fall off the picture?
My number one choice was Boston right after Rondo tore his ACL.
That's so true.
But they're proving me wrong with a 6-game winning streak. Something's clicking. I don't know.
But how long do you think that's going to last? Do you think that's going to last them enough? You have to think about this. This is February till, there's about 2 more months left of basketball.
It's the East. Don't forget that.
It's the East. Just because of the East.
And see, but that brings back the Bynum thing. You got Bynum coming back. Do you think that the 76ers with Bynum could legitimately pose a threat?
It's the East. Anything can happen in the East. Literally anything can. The West, the top 5 spots are almost always secured. But in the East, everything is open except for the top 2 spots.
I think there'll be the 76ers. I think they'll be dangerous. I mean, Bynum comes back, that brings so much more pressure for Jrue Holiday, Evan Turner. That he is something those guys don't have to create. You can just give it to Bynum and make a possession.
So, do you see Boston falling off the picture?
Yes, because Kevin Garnett is getting old. Paul Pierce has really streaky games. Their production isn't consistent.
Garnett is having a good year. Garnett is being consistent, and you wonder who's gonna, through this streak, that will only last for so long. When they come into a slump, who's gonna step up? Who's gonna be the guy that's really gonna step up besides Garnett and Pierce? And I start looking at, unless Philadelphia really comes, I see Philadelphia being the only legitimate thing. Maybe, and this is a long stretch. If Toronto gets itself together. Maybe Toronto could, because it's hovering.
It's going to be hard for Toronto.
It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard for Boston to lose its position.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'll also add, come trade deadline, you should watch out for Utah. I feel like they're going to drop depending what they do with their big men.
They're definitely going to drop one of either Al Jefferson or Paul Millsap. I mean, I've heard trade rumors. The thing is, the reason why Utah wants to get rid of Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap is so like Derek Favors and Enes Kanter. That's their future right there. Gordon Hayward, those 3 guys, that's their future. And they see Al Jefferson, Paul Millsap.
Yeah, because you know what you're going to get, and you've already peaked with this team. This team is only going to be a 6-7 seed maybe with Al Jefferson and the lineup that they have. You're not going to get anything more. You're not going to go up and be in those top 4.
Well, think about this. If the Spurs actually acquire Al Jefferson, everybody knows this. The Spurs, they're boring basketball. Everybody knows that. They're always there. They're the top.
They're always there.
Seed, but then come playoff time, they crumble. They crumble.
And it's crazy. The thing is, they just have this reputation of being boring. They have an 11-game win streak going right now. They're the top seed.
But they go under the radar. That's
they're ridiculous. And then you add an Al Jefferson in there. Yeah, these aren't exciting names. It's like a lineup of Al Jefferson, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker. That doesn't really bring excitement. But you're just looking at this lineup and you're saying, man, that is a good lineup.
Yeah, they have solid players. They don't have.
They have always had solid players. It is absolutely impressive how they just keep staying there. They don't fall. They just always stay in that top, especially in the season. Now, obviously, in the playoffs, sometimes they've recently started having the success. Last year, going to the conference finals, but then a couple of years back, they did lose in the they're showing decline. They would lose in the second round, then lost in the first round and stuff like that. But the fact is that you never can count out the Spurs, and that's just something.
They're always there in the regular season.
You just gotta give credit to Greg Popovich. I mean, that guy's just been able to make his rosters work together, being able to manage the roster so all these players are healthy and just fits to the roles.
But I see the point. I see Utah making a trade. I see Utah making a trade, and if they make a trade, then I think they're gonna fall. And Portland would take that seed. Houston would go up, and Portland would take that seed. I would sort of say that maybe Dallas, because Dallas and the Lakers are statistically still in it. but the Lakers are
The
going to be.
The Lakers
they're
are
missing.
going to be in it. It's
I
without
have
like
sincere
without
doubts about
a
that.
They're going to be missing Pau Gasol for 4 to 6 weeks. And
without
that's-
Kobe is without a doubt.
Kobe- okay.
Kobe cannot bring a whole team by himself. He cannot
Thank you.
carry
He's-
it.
this
Kobe
is-
has done this.
No.
Are we going to talk about this? Kobe has done this.
We're going to talk
before.
about this a little bit. Now, let's
Kobe
see
has done it before, but not as to the extent where he has to handle different personalities like all stars, like Dwight Howard, like Steve Nash. He's always been the head honcho, but now he has to, compensate for the other different players.
Trust me, if they when it comes time to make the playoffs, the Lakers are going to step up. Dwight Howard, if they don't make the playoffs, then what the fuck did he come to
That's
the Lakers
the point.
for?
That you expect. You
Trust me,
expect the finals.
they are going to make the run. The Lakers, if the Lakers don't make the finals,
The Lakers are not. What?
I mean, sorry, if the Lakers don't make the playoffs,
It's
I will do something drastic. That's how confident.
You're gonna give me every single player. No,
Yeah,
it'll be over. It'll be over.
Kiss the doggy's butt like Charles Barkley.
What?
I mean, even if they make the playoffs, how far do you think they'll go?
It's the Lakers
but-
in the playoffs.
Doesn't
No.
matter.
That means
You're
nothing.
giving Kobe way too much credit.
Are you?
Look, Kobe, all year, like always, plays at an explosive level. The thing that he has always going for him is that he is constantly elevating his game and adjusting his game so that he always has longevity and importance in the league. So he's relevant. He always makes himself relevant in the league. But I just see this team. I see this team and I see Kobe. Kobe is not enough. He has never been enough. He always needs a center. He always needs
He
something
has
else.
never been enough.
Never been enough to he.
solely.
He is. You
Who
want.
has been enough solely?
No, honestly, you need two players,
Yeah.
two superstars. I mean,
LeBron
LeBron
James-
James couldn't go
Yeah,
to the finals.
He went to the
No.
finals in 2007 with basically
And-
nil to
and-
nothing.
and what-
But he couldn't go
happened?
all the way, though.
And
But
he got
went,
swept.
but he took them. But the thing is this: Kobe Bryant can win a finals for you, but he can't take you there.
We'll save this.
We'll save this for later.
on.
This is going to get ridiculous, but okay. So overall,
I will say this: Milwaukee has their own fate in their hands. Like, whether they want to make the playoffs, it's all up to them.
you wonder if a backcourt of Ellis and Jennings, is that enough? Is that enough along with the players?
Is it tall enough?
That's all I say. Yeah,
I like that one.
that's pretty good. But with that, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap up our first ever podcast of Unlimited Pancakes. We hope that you've enjoyed getting your fill of these pancakes, unlike Elliot, who can't seem to get any pancakes at IHOP. Hurts, doesn't it? It was devastating for you. And any last words you guys want to say before we sign off?
Michael Jordan's 50th birthday is this coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be the 17th, and I know they're going to run like 2 weeks worth of programming on ESPN. I actually do want to catch some of that
Yeah,
stuff.
I would kill the Wild. I wish I had ESPN Classic. You guys should catch some ESPN Classic games with Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan.
Any last words?
Oh, well, thanks, guys, for listening, and tune in next week.
Next week. We're not doing another. It's over. We're scraping the whole project. This project is over.
My life.
Oh, yeah. Well, since this might be the last show, you can just catch me on my own show. The Elliot Show.
All right, what's going to be on the Elliot show? It's just going to be you sitting in front of a train just be like,
Yes.
all right, well, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Unlimited Pancakes.
The Elliot Show.
Oh,